Okay. The hybrid athlete. Lift heavy, run far, live in Austin, Texas. The reason this character, the hybrid athlete, stands out the most to me is because he's not massive like a bodybuilder, to the point where he cannot even scratch his back. To be fair, most hybrid athletes that you see on Instagram are like that. But he isn't so scrawny to the point where he can move fast, but it looks like the wind is going to take him away. He's not a bodybuilder, he's not an ultra runner, he's perfectly in the middle. With an athletic physique, the aesthetic build, yet he can still move his body however he wants to. That is what I'm shooting for, and that is what I call the hybrid build. I mean, I don't call it, but you get my point. The reason I call it the hybrid build and not the hybrid athlete is because I feel like the hybrid athlete has such a narrow definition in this day and age. It's just lifting and either biking, running, or swimming. So basically Ironman training or marathon training. That is way too limited. I feel like what the hybrid build really means is having a form of resistance training, so that can be calisthenics, lifting weights. I personally prefer calisthenics. That's why I call it resistance training, not lifting weights. And also having either one or more sport that you're focused on. Obviously running, biking, swimming, but it could also be tennis, badminton, pickleball, cricket, football, rugby, whatever. It may be something else that you focus on. You're not just this one-dimensional person where you either live in the gym or you either live on the track. You are a mix of both. Because to you, it's not about becoming the best marathoner out there, or it's not about becoming the best powerlifter out there, or becoming the biggest bodybuilder out there. To you, it's more about being good in multiple modalities. A jack of all trades, if you want to say that. To be very honest with you, this is what I'm going for. Both physique-wise and performance-wise. And I feel like this is what a lot of people actually want, because to get to a certain standard in a specific sport, you have to sacrifice so many other things. And most of us just don't want that. But who the heck am I? Well, long story short, I'm Ali. I was a fat kid my entire life, or most of my life. I was made fun of and I did not like that at all. Therefore, I wanted to change. And so on December 4th, 2020, I committed to getting in the best shape of my life. And that is exactly what I did. So after a full year of mainly calisthenics, eating whole foods, home cooked meals, no processed crap, and skipping legs, I looked like this on December 4th, 2021. It's safe to say I was in the best shape of my life. But from that point till summer 2024, I did nothing but program hopping. Yes, I did nothing but program hopping. I switched from workout program to workout program to workout program, and therefore I made no progress, except the progress that you make simply through gaining weight over time. So I just look slightly better due to natural weight gain. That is it. But when I decided to get my shit together and actually stick to a program, I tore my rotator cuff playing badminton. And that happened in July 2024. And then from September 2024, I started rehab. I started working with a coach. I worked with him for a full year. But almost 2 years later, it's still not letting me train the way I want to. Now, obviously, during this time, I did not make any gains whatsoever. In fact, I lost gains and I actually gained weight, and I look more terrible now. Realizing I looked like shit, I decided to cut down weight, and I cut down about 2 pounds. Then I realized I need to actually fix my shoulder first, because if I cut down all the weight, I'm just going to be looking skinny and scrawny, which I don't want at all. I need to build muscle, but to build muscle, I need to fix my shoulder, and that is what I'm focused on now. So I tweaked my shoulder last week on the overhead press, and therefore I'm building back up again slowly. And that is where this idea of building from scratch comes into play, because yeah, sure, I have a bit of training experience before this, but at the end of the day, I am still building from scratch, because I'm in a position right now equal to basically starting from scratch. Torn rotator cuff, bit of fat. So it is basically starting from scratch. But that being said, let's head to the workout. So after any tweak or any flare-up, I always have to regress my movements. I have to regress my warm-ups. I have to regress my main movements, because my shoulder just cannot handle the ones I was doing before. And that is what I do here. So I start every single workout off with activation drills to wake up the muscles, the small muscles in my shoulder that are needed to carry out a movement without any pain. And so I start off with, ideally you're supposed to use a medicine ball here, but I don't have that, so I use a basketball. You put that against the wall, you put your shoulder in an overhead position, retract and depress your scapula, and then do side to sides as I'm doing here. I aim for about 15 to 60 repetitions when it comes to each of these, and then after that I do 6 o'clock to 2 o'clock. So I'm taking the ball from 6 o'clock all the way to 2 o'clock and back. And so you're supposed to do this slower, but honestly I just don't have the patience to take it slow. That's a flaw within me. Then after that I do something called clockwise and anti-clockwise rotation. So here, as you can see, I'm doing clockwise rotations. And these are there, honestly these burn my shoulders the most. Clockwise rotations followed by anti-clockwise rotations are amazing for activating the muscles and activating the shoulder. And I do these on both sides, but mainly focusing on my right side, which is actually my injured side. So after I'm done with about 15 to 60 repetitions of these, I move on to the next movement. And that is a row plus an external rotation at the top, which I hold for about 3 seconds. I love this movement. It feels great. It pumps up my shoulders. It pumps up my rear delts. It just feels amazing overall. I do this for about 2 sets of 8 to 12 repetitions. And the whole goal here is, again, to activate my rear delt, to activate my rotator cuff. What I do is I use some plates. I put those under the bench so that it's lifted off about 15 degrees. So it's at a minor incline. And then I simply start rowing. So I row, and then I hold, as you can see here, for about, give or take, 3 seconds. and then I bring it down slowly. And notice how I'm actually using my scapula here. So I first retract my scapula, and then I protract my scapula, and I do this to actually engage every single muscle in my back, to engage every single muscle in my shoulder. It feels freaking amazing, and I absolutely love this. So this is a prone floor slide. It is for activating your lower traps, which are actually so overlooked by most people. Many people cannot even feel their lower traps working, and this will make sure that you do. It's very simple. I simply retract my scapula a bit, and I also depress it, and then I simply make sure that I do not elevate it at any point throughout the movement. My lower traps are going to be cramping once I'm done with this, and I do about 2 sets of 10 to make sure that my lower traps are fully activated before I start my main movements. So this is a different form of the external rotation. It's actually called a Cuban rotation. And I'm doing this with a cable, or not a cable, but a band, because when I'm doing this with the band, I feel tension at the top. And that is where I feel my rotator cuff activate the most. So I do about 3 sets of 10 to 15 with these. Nothing too crazy. I don't go to absolute failure with these. I just make sure that I go enough to the point where my rotator cuffs are fully activated and warm for the movements ahead. And lastly, to complement the external rotations, we do internal rotations. This is very important for me because I also have subscapular tendinosis, basically the muscle that is responsible for internal rotation. I have tendinosis in that, so I need to actually train this as well. And getting this strong as well actually did make my shoulders feel way, way, way better. So I'm doing this in the same fashion as I did the external rotations with, kind of in a Cuban rotation format. But yeah, build up to this. You don't start off with this. Instead, you actually start off with keeping your elbow close to your body, and slowly and steadily you take it further away from your body, and you do the variation that I'm doing right here. The band puts the tension at the bottom, and I do this for about 3 sets of 10 to 15 again. Now that we're done with the warm-up, we're going to start off with our actual movements, which start off with 3 sets of 12 on the landmine press. I use this pad underneath my knees so my knees don't hurt when I'm doing the actual movement, and the setup is a bit weird for it. I kind of struggle with it, honestly. The other day, the bar fell down, and it was in my hand because I just could not control it, so that is something I do need to be more careful with. But I love this movement so freaking much because it allows my scapula to move freely. It allows my scapula to rotate upwards, which is exactly how it's supposed to. And every single time I have had a tweak, every single time I have had a flare-up, I always end up progressing to this movement and get slightly stronger in this movement. So right now I'm doing about 14 kilograms, I think, and then I'm probably going to end up building this to 18 to 20 kilograms, because after that point I've noticed that I find it way difficult to set up this movement, especially because my bar is like 5 feet. So that is not ideal at all for the landmine press. Regardless, it's a motion that is kind of in the middle of a pure overhead press and a pure bench press, which is why I love this so much. It's kind of like you're doing a semi overhead press, and that is exactly why I do it. So I stick with this for a few weeks, or maybe 1-2 weeks, and then I eventually introduce vertical pressing, because at that point my shoulder is good enough to be able to tolerate vertical pressing again, and I slowly build back up. Now that was my main pushing movement, but this is my main pulling movement, the single arm dumbbell row. I do this for about 3 sets of 12, and honestly I don't like this movement a lot. Like I just don't like it. I prefer single arm cable rows. I prefer rows on the rings. I just don't like this movement. I don't know why. Maybe it's because my leg comes in between. I just don't feel like I can move freely. So that is why I personally prefer other types of rows. But the reason I do this is because, number one, for me, setting up the cable is kind of annoying. And second thing is that it's scalable, right? A ring row isn't as scalable, in my opinion, as a single arm dumbbell row, because while you have weight, you can just figure out, okay, if I'm using more weight or less weight, and it makes it way easier to progressively overload. And honestly, these micro adjustments are king when it comes to recovering from any flare-up or any type of tweak. So that is exactly why I focus on this movement, 3 sets of 12, and then we move on to arm. But before that, I was testing out some behind the neck pressing. I was seeing if my shoulders can actually get into that position and if they feel nice, and honestly, they did. In fact, there was a point in time in my rehab journey where I was pushing behind the neck press to absolute failure without any problems, and my rotator cuff probably had never felt better. So I think I'm going to make this my main pressing movement once I am fully recovered from this flare-up and this tweak that I just had. But after that, anyways, we have bicep curls. Curls for the girls, you know it, man. And I just keep it simple. I take 3 sets of 15, just making sure that I push myself, nothing too crazy. I'm not going to absolute failure, because I find that if I actually go to failure on bicep curls, for some reason it irritates my shoulder. So I just started off slow as well. And slowly I'm going to build this movement into a point where, inshallah, I can actually push close to failure. And I actually was supposed to do triceps as well, but I was short on time, so I actually did not get triceps done. But this was the whole workout. Nothing too crazy. It took me about an hour and a half-ish, an hour and a half. Honestly, most of these rehab movements are just tedious to set up. That is why it takes so much time. But if you were to really focus and lock in, you could get this done in an hour and 10 minutes easy. And this is me seeing if I actually have any gains whilst I'm doing curls, and I honestly don't, but we'll build it up inshallah. That was the workout. Simple, targeting the areas that need to be targeted the most. and I need to improve on the most. So a bunch of prehab stuff, the main movements, which was the landmine press and the single arm dumbbell row, and then just arms. And to be very honest with you, I was short on time, so I skipped triceps. But that is the basic workout. And to be very honest with you, I've had about 3 flare-ups before this, so that means my injury flared up 3 times before this as well, right? And I've tweaked my shoulder once or twice before this as well. So like I know how to deal with this to a certain extent whenever you have a tweak or whatever. And this is my bread and butter workout that I do every single time I have a tweak. So before this, for example, I was doing in one workout, I was doing overhead press, I was doing pull-ups, assisted pull-ups, I was doing push-ups, I was doing rows, I think I was doing arms as well. So like I was doing a lot. And on top of that, I was doing the prehab stuff. And that was way too much for my body to handle, number one. Number two, I was also pushing myself more than I was capable. I was trying to rush the process. I was trying to rush progress, right? Like my shoulder was feeling super achy on single arm dumbbell overhead press. Yeah, I still pushed it even though I wasn't supposed to. That mindset has caused me injury or flare-ups 3 times. Yeah, and caused me a tweak this time. So I'm building back up slowly this time, really respecting the process, taking my time with it and not rushing things, and just letting things happen and just letting things unfold as God has decided them to unfold. But overall, my shoulder feels way better, alhamdulillah. Like I've done about 4 sessions of this and my shoulder feels way better, alhamdulillah. So now I'm gonna start to make things slightly more difficult, make things slightly more challenging, change up my rehab exercise a bit. I'm gonna mess around with knees over toes guy stuff a bit because I feel like his concepts are really accurate when it comes to fixing any injury. So that's what I'm gonna focus on more. But more on that in the next video, inshallah. Now you might be wondering, where is the hybrid in all of this? You're just training. You're just training your shoulder. 2 things. Number 1, I ran 2 miles a few days ago. All right, so I'm about to go hit my very first run in about 17 months. It's going to be a simple 2-mile run because I want to get back in shape because I'm running a 5K next weekend. It's probably going to take me about 20 minutes, so a 10-minute per mile pace. Let's get it. I forgot how difficult this used to be. Oh, man. I know you can't see me right now, but for some reason my Strava is in kilometers. About 1 kilometer down. I want to stop so bad, man. About 2 kilometers in now. 1.2 left. It's the final stretch. Just like that. 2 miles done. I gotta say, my legs are thrashed. Like they're finished. Even though it was a 2-mile run. I mean, that's my cat. Where is it? Yeah. So, but I'm thrashed. I'm finished. I don't know what to say. I'm actually pretty darn unfit. You know, more unfit than I thought. And this was not zone 2, by the way. This was definitely around close to zone 3, maybe zone 4. I'm not sure because like towards the end when I had like half a kilometer left, I was just pushing it and I didn't realize how big of a mistake that was. And that really started to make me feel hurt right here. This place was hurting a lot. So regardless, I know that this is at least a starting point and I'm going to continue building up, inshallah, because like I enjoyed this. As much as this was hard, as hard as this was, I still really enjoyed it. And I look forward to doing more runs slowly and steadily. Again, the focus is still fixing my shoulders. The focus is still building muscle mass. Running is just a form of cardio I might do once or twice a week. And I think that's still classified as hybrid training because when you think about it, in hybrid training, you have focuses, right? So you either focus more on endurance or you focus more on muscle or strength or whatever. So that is why, for me, not for the next couple of years, probably next 1, 2 years, 2 years, inshallah, my focus is going to be muscle, right? Because I want to build that physique and then I can transition more into endurance and stuff like that because I still truly love that. Like when you sit down after a session like this, it's something else, man. It is something else. You feel amazing. Number 2 is that one thing that people don't talk about when it comes to hybrid training is that you need to choose a focus. You can't just come out of the womb running and lifting together and focusing on both and then achieve a good physique and also be good at running. That's not how it works. You need to prioritize something for a certain amount of time and then you can prioritize something else, right? But just because you are prioritizing something doesn't mean you completely stop the other thing. So for example, right now, I am prioritizing my shoulder. Hence, I am prioritizing resistance training, lifting weights, calisthenics, that kind of stuff. That is my main focus. But that does not mean I slack on something else. I slack on, well, in this case, running. Before my 2-mile run this week, I had not ran, like I said, in about 17 months. 17 months. I ran a half marathon January 2025. That's not good. It's still good to run once or twice a week to maintain that base level of fitness, right? And so with me focusing mainly on fixing my shoulder, I can still incorporate 1 run every single week, 2 runs every single week, jump rope here and there. Like I can still do that. It's not like I have to completely ignore it because I'm focused on this one thing. No. But yes, you do need to be focused on one thing if you want to make progress in it. And then when, inshallah, I get to a point where I have made a lot of progress with my shoulder, with my physique, right? I'm happy with my physique. I can then transition more into running marathons, which is really what every single hybrid athlete you see on the internet has done. They already come from a bodybuilding background, and then they transition into endurance training. They didn't come out of the womb like that. They had to build that physique up first. They had to build that strength up first, and then they chose to transition more into, well, endurance training while maintaining the strength gains that they made and the muscle gains that they made. So right now, I'm in the process of building muscle. I'm in the process of building my aerobic base. And so I need to prioritize which one am I going to go with, and I'm going with fixing my shoulder and building muscle first, building the physique first, right? While still maintaining running as something that I can use for cardio. So just keep that in mind. But that being said, this was episode 1. I know it wasn't the best, but to be great, you have to first start. And yeah, God willing, I'll keep making progress and I'll share everything in this journey, because man, I wish David Lay had done this when he started. I wish Lex Little had done this when he started. I wish Grisha had done this when he started. I wish I could see Luke Hopkins first building muscle. Like I wish I could see these guys' journeys from absolute scratch, from even before they started hybrid training and they were initially building their physiques and their strength. So that's what I hope to accomplish with this series. And that being said, I will catch you in the next one, inshallah. Peace.